magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number.
What does it all mean?
Hello and welcome to Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy. That's me, Matthew Syed. Some more meaty topics. We're going to talk about the fallout from the extraordinary ball tampering episode, teary press conferences and all. Also going to talk about young kids and getting them to dare to be brilliant. Remember, you can use the hashtag FredSavSide to suggest future topics. But before we get going...
I don't mind that. How did you come up with the topic, kids doing to be brilliant? Where did that topic come from? Is that something you just plucked off the top of your head?
That is related to my new book.
Here we go. Right, yeah.
The kids out on April the 19th.
You're not doing a piece on Mourinho this week because we're not talking about him. Is that right?
Although I did, the piece on Cipriani came out on Saturday.
Oh, did
and
it?
Went down well. Him and his mum a black cab driver, extraordinarily.
We know. Did you read it, Rob?
Woman.
No.
But I'm having dinner with Danny and his girlfriend on Tuesday. He is an unbelievably good guy, really nice chap.
So they say.
Topic number 2, that will be. But before we get on to that, it's what we've been up to this week. And you too, I've got to tell you, I've been looking at WhatsApp. You have had very interesting weeks. Who wants to start?
I've got a bone to pick with Robbie Savage, but I want to hear about his week first.
Yeah.
So it's been 2 weeks, isn't it, since we've done the podcast?
Yeah,
So I went to Spain to watch my eldest son in the competition, lost in the quarterfinals, done exceptionally well.
Good for him.
Proud of him. And then I got back. Went to Seville for Sevilla Bayern Munich. Good game. Got
Great
back
accent.
the next day and then done Liverpool against Manchester City in an unbelievable game.
What a match.
3-0 to Liverpool. Then I done Arsenal against CSKA Moscow. And then I done the Manchester derby at the weekend.
Wow.
And I've been in Cardiff today.
Yeah.
You've been about, haven't you?
Yeah, for BT Sport, I can say that. They're doing the BT Sport Pub Cup, and the guy who's doing it was a guy called Tom, massive fan of the show. And do you know what? So basically, pubs enter the competition. The final gets played at the King Power Stadium. It's brilliant, but it took me back to when I was a kid going to watch my Sunday morning football team. The Black Horse it was, and
right.
It was like great football. It took me back to the grassroots pitches, the lads all together, camaraderie. Went to the pub after, all sitting around the table, chip butties, they were drinking lager, Football was on the TV. Yeah. These are all mates. They're all hammered probably the night before. It was brilliant. So
Can I ask, with your son,
yeah.
He lost in the quarterfinal. He said he played well.
Yeah.
As a dad and as a coach of young football teams, how do you react after a defeat? Do you build him up, or do you get angry if you think he underperformed? How do you sort of handle it?
Very difficult with my son, because I'm one of these parents that I'll never have a go at him. And we've talked about this before. And we might come on to that when we do your book. I just try and praise him, and I ask him first, how do you think you done? But yourself, he knows himself, and I honestly thought he'd done well. I've just tried to tell him about his body position when he receives the ball. Take on the back foot and go forward, because kids.
All the things you couldn't do.
I was typing horrible straight away.
He waited. He was patient.
Why?
He was tempted earlier.
Do as I say, son, not as I do. Just run round after the ball. Just run round. Run round next to someone.
Don't touch it.
Do a Franco Zola. Just run round after someone. You're the best game of your life, son.
Right, well, so what I try and do, I'm tempted to back foot, go forward, because anybody can play sideways. Yeah. Be brave. I'd rather you pass the ball forward 3 or 4 times, and as long as you're trying to do the right thing, if it gets cut out, because they haven't got the power yet to reach. Yeah. As long as he can see it, so encourage him all the time. And I found out, so that's been my week, but I found out also that I'm commentating on the big game.
Which one? Which big game?
Which you're playing in.
Ooh.
Which you'll be marking Usain Bolt in.
What? Sportaid?
Sportaid. Guess what? I am co-commentator with Clive.
Well, let me get your words out better than that.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry. All the times you've been horrible to me on this podcast, I cannot wait.
I am not worried. I won't be playing sideways. I'm going forward. I'll be on the back foot coming forward.
I can't wait to see him race you.
What position are you playing?
Well, I don't know yet. I've got to get a team, because they have the squad and then you go for training and get in the team. I'm a centre half. That's where I play.
He's been on the treadmill and everything. I've seen him with the ball in the gym.
I can play up front if you want. Well, I think Usain Bolt's on the opposing team. And as you know about sport, it's not how fast you are, it's how you read the game. It's fine. I'm not worried. To be honest with you, if Usain Bolt gets past me, he won't have any legs.
So I can't wait. So I found out great cause. Fred's playing. I'm a coach. Because
When is it?
the disappointing thing for me is this is the disappointing thing.
You're not
for me.
playing?
No, because when I got the call, I was like, "This is it."
I think for the rest of the world team, they've already got one Welsh player. I think he played twice in 70s. He's like a bigger name.
When I got the call, I remember 2 occasions in my life when I thought, "This is it." John Toshak, when he called me, I thought he was going to say, "You're going to be the new Welsh captain." It basically told me I wasn't going to be in the squad. No. So I told him where to go, never play for Wales ever again. And then when I got the call of Sport Aid,
Soccer Aid,
I thought, this is it. Rest of the world, me.
Do you think you get a game?
Seedorf.
Who did you think? Who did you think had cried off?
I know. I thought, this is it.
Oh no,
this is it. All those names, but because I wasn't a good enough player.
Ray Houghton's cried off. Can we get Robbie Savage?
I wasn't good enough to play as a player, but I'm not famous enough to play as a celebrity. So I
got a minute. I saw on Twitter the other day some bloke called Joe Wicks is playing, and you can't get a game.
But he's a celebrity. He's the bodybuilder, not the bodybuilder.
You was a footballer, Robbie. You was.
Yeah, I'm not big enough to be. I'm not.
You're Robbie Savage. You're commentating.
I'm not. I
feel bad now.
You get what I mean? You should. You get what I mean? I'm not a Seedorf or a Ronaldinho.
Really? That's what everyone says.
He's admitted it at last.
Everyone says everywhere we go past you. Boy, man, is that? That's the Welsh Ronaldo.
I'm just trying to be nice here. What are you laughing at? Seriously, he started straight away. We've not seen each other for 2 weeks. I've borrowed him in Mini. I've insured it for him. And he's broken. Bobbed.
We got to get onto the Mini.
Get onto him.
I want Robbie to finish about soccer.
So I'm commentating, so I can't wait, because I thought I might have got the call to play, but I'm not big enough, I'm not famous enough, which I accept. So the next best thing, I'm going to be co-commentating with Clive Tilsley, and I cannot wait, because I am going to rip him to pieces.
Bring your boots, though.
Why?
Just in case someone off Towie cries off.
You're horrible. You're horrible, isn't it? Right.
So that was a hell of a fight. What is it? So Robbie did you a massive
favour.
Oh, well, apparently, do you know what? His heart was in the right place and he was doing me a favour. My week this week, I've been fat friending at Birmingham. So I've had a week, Tuesday to Saturday. I stayed over the first night, then I've been commuting. One of my car went into the garage, so I didn't have a car.
Which one?
The black one. And then I've got another one in my garage which I drive every now and then. But the problem is I've moved house, and I'll say it, the Lamborghini, fine. It's in the garage, and I can't get it down my drive because where the drive goes down to the street, it's too steep. So I can't get it out. My car is marooned in the garage. So I've phoned Robbie up and said, can I borrow the Mini? Because I know it's on his path.
Yep.
So he's let me borrow the Mini. So I've taken it back and forth to Birmingham, which was nice. And then on Friday, I thought, you know what? My car needs a run out, so I'll take the car out. So to negate the dip in the drive, there was a spare skirting board in the house to create a ramp. So I put the skirting board down to take the ramp out, but I needed another piece of wood. So I took a door frame off. I had no other wood. I took a door frame off.
It didn't need the 8th bedroom.
So I've gone up and I've got there. And then I got on the motorway. It's Friday afternoon, and it took me 2 hours to get from Altrincham to Sandbach.
There's those road words on by.
There was an accident, but it was on the other side. People are rubbernecking, and my car is so uncomfortable. My arse is wedged in that seat again. I'm having to lift the door up to stretch my knee. It took me 3 hours to get to Birmingham. So I thought, I won't do that again. Mm-hmm. My travel plans have got worse this week. I thought I'll get the train on Saturday. So I've gone on my app. I've got an app on my phone. I've checked the train times.
Train line?
No, I'm on Virgin's. Virgin's trains. So I Stockport to Birmingham New Street. There's a train that leaves about 11:30. Mm-hmm. Gets me in for 1 o'clock. I've not have to be until 1:15. Perfect. I then booked my return journey. Mm-hmm. During the week, the last train's 10:30, which is too tight. That's why I've been driving. So I seen the train Saturday night. There's one at about 5 to 11. So I thought, perfect, that's absolutely perfect. I don't have to sit in the motorway. I don't have to drive home. It's been taking 2.5 hours home because there's closures on the motorway at night. You've got to go around the houses and get home. So I finished the show. Saturday night, I've come out, stage door. I've done my pictures. I've not rushed. I think I've got plenty of time here. I get in the train station next door, 20 to 11, thinking I'll get a coffee. So I get my coffee. I'm walking through, got my bag. And I look on the boards to see which platform my train's on. And I'm looking, I can't see my train to Manchester Piccadilly. There's no train. So I'm thinking, where's my train? What's going on? So I've gone on my app to check my train. I'm going through it, saying, that's right, 10:50, whatever it is, 55. So there's no board. If I got on trains, they use a 24-hour clock, don't they? I've booked a morning train home. There's no train. So I start panicking. I start running around the station to platforms. I ran to a platform, there's a train to Crewe. I'm sprinting through. The train pulls out as I get onto platform 10A. Then I'm running to platform 8C. I'm running to 8C to try and get somewhere else. And then I'm sweating and I panicked. I really panicked. So I got to platform 2C. I went to Derby. I got on a train to Derby, which is no closer than Birmingham. So I've got on this train. It's packed of drunks. People have been in the show, fellas, all sorts. I've sat on the floor, and I've gone in first class because it's quiet. Sat on the floor. Nobody came for a ticket, so I was all right. And I listened to these people discussing whether I was me or not. And then all of a sudden, the doors open, and then all these people, 100 people come in. I'm stood there. I get to Derby. I get an Uber from Derby home. Mm-hmm. There's only one Uber driver in Derby. So I've had to wait for him. I've got home about 2:30 in the morning. So that's one bad thing. Next morning, Sunday morning, right? I've had a disruptive sleep. I'm tired. I've got up. I've got to get my boys to cricket to Ashton-under-Lyne this morning. It's Sunday. We're doing this on a Sunday. So I go in the car, get them all in there. Cricket bags packed in the back of the Mini.
Wow.
Corey's in front, he's the tallest. Rocky's sat behind him. My daughter's coming, she's behind me. I'm balancing the steering wheel on my knees. I can't get through.
Safely, with two hands on the wheel.
Yeah, I'm fine. Mrs. is saying, well, you going in that car? I said, yeah, I am going in that car. So she's there, well, no, why? It's a small car. I said, we're fine. Just leave us, get us going. So we set off. Go to Endert Road, get M56. There's this noise coming from the car.
I've heard it. He's filmed it.
The kids are looking. Oh, I don't know what it is, so I don't know what it is. Next minute, car starts pulling right. Oh, I've got a flat tyre. So I pulled in at M56 under a bridge. I've had to phone the missus who's had a go at me for taking that car anyway, Robbie's car.
The one I insured him on.
I said, can you come and pick the kids up? Take them to cricket. So she's come. I'm sat, I don't know what to do. I've phoned up a recovery man. He's come to pick me up. He's loaded the car on the back of the truck. He's then bored me to tears about the Manchester Derby on Saturday. He's banging on about it. He takes me to Gorton to get a tyre. I'm sat there, 110 quid recovery, £70 for a tyre.
Was it 70 quid?
For a tyre?
You only put one on for me. That's shocking.
I'll be honest with you, Rob. I was going to torch it. Do you know what the missus said? I phoned her up and she came and she says, are you going to come to cricket? Are you going to get in the car? I said, no. She said, well, it's not your car. She said, why don't you just leave it and give Robbie a bit of money?
She didn't say that.
She did.
She didn't say that.
Why don't you just buy it off him and leave it? And then for a split second, I thought, that's not a bad option, that. So I've had a shocker. So the Mini...
Where is it now?
It's in the car park at the BBC. I've got a fresh tyre on it. The wheels, it's a black wheel. And it's a bit... Yeah.
But it's lost a thing off it, hasn't it?
Well, something's fallen off.
Something's
fallen off. I don't know. The fella was telling me, but I wasn't listening.
But I saw on, was it WhatsApp?
Look at Freddie's Insta for pictures of the car.
That was unbelievable. But you put on a video.
I've videoed the whole process.
But before that or after it,
I've videoed from the side of the
glove
M56.
compartment.
Oh, the glove compartment. That was the thing. I've got his car. And then I get it, and I think, you know what? I'll see what's in his glove box. You know, is it? On my Instagram, you can see he's got hairspray. He had Veet hair remover for his balls.
That wasn't mine. That was Sarah's.
Stop putting it on your head. Stop putting that Veet on your head. You're going bald, lad. So he's got that. And then there was athlete's foot powder. I drew the line at the tub of Viagra's. I didn't want to put them out. I thought that'd have been too far.
They were yours. He put the Viagra. The other stuff was mine.
The other stuff, I thought you had set the whole thing up. This was yours.
Well, Matthew, we have things to do.
How did it go in Fat Friends this week?
Do you know what? it was a strange week. Finished the week strong. Saturday was brilliant. Friday was good. Mm-hmm. And then it's funny actually because I think the only thing I can relate it to is sport. Is at the beginning of the week, I lost a little bit of confidence, and it's really not like me. In the acting, I'm fine, but in the singing, I lost a little bit of confidence. And I remember when I used to go and bat, and I remember when I was on it and when I wasn't on it. And when I walked out to bat and I was on it, all I thought about was where I'm hitting the ball, where I'm going to score my shots, where I'm going to get my runs. When I wasn't on it, I walk out and I just saw fielders. Yeah. And I've not had that feeling for a long time. And I was on stage, and I'm no man stretch a great singer or anything, but I can get through. Yeah. But I just lost a little bit of confidence. Yeah. And no matter what I was trying to do, I just couldn't get it. I just couldn't get it right.
Where do you think the seed of self-doubt came from? Because I know exactly what you mean. When you're in the zone, everything seems easy and seamless, and you function brilliantly.
Well, it stemmed from the first on Tuesday. They changed my song a little bit. Yeah. So it was like monotone to start in leads, and it goes up and down, and then they decided the second chorus shouldn't be the same as the first chorus. So they were both going high, but then they brought the first one down, and then the first night.
They change your song quite a lot. You don't get it. Every podcast they change my song a little bit.
They're still trying to find one I can sing.
Come on, Andrew. You've got to get it. You're a clever guy.
Good that. For that I doffed my cap.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
So what happened was it says, "Who am I to think she'll be my wife?" So it started off, "Who am I to think she will be my wife?" How it was. And then it was, "Who am I to think she will be my wife?" It was really high. But then they brought it back down halfway. And I was trying to do it halfway. So it goes, "Who am I to think she will?" And I should have gone, "Be my wife." But instead, I went, "Be my wife."
Really?
Oh, and then after that, I just lost it. And it took me till Friday night to get it back.
Really?
Did you say, in one of the earlier podcasts, you said something along the lines of, you've got a mentor who you're working with?
Michael Bradley, he's on it, and he's in front of me all the time. And I'll be honest with you, he conducts. And in Birmingham, the conductor and the audience are really close. He's more or less playing his piano on stage or his keyboard. And if I do it well afterwards, he give me a wink or a thumbs up. And I was looking at him, and I was looking, he just put his head down. But he's been brilliant. He's been working with me, doing extra time. But also as well, a little bit of confidence went. Because, again, you talk about teams, and there's leaders in teams, and there's people who are important. And wherever it may be, there's people that you'll go and speak to for a little bit of guidance or a little bit of support. And our mate Craig.
Yeah, great fella.
Craig, North East side, he's like resident director on tour, he's in the show. And he's not been around. He's ill, bless him. He's really ill, to be fair to him, and he's having a bad time of it. And he's not been there. And he's not like someone I'd go and talk to. Yeah. Or if I've sung, usually he'd be in my dressing room waiting, saying, "How do you think that went?" Yeah. And I've really missed him on that.
But you've got more of the run to come in different cities.
I've got 2 weeks left.
So you've got a chance to put that...
Bradford, and then finishes my Broadway, which is Blackpool. I can't wait.
Oh, Blackpool.
I'm going to have it there. But do you know what I went to? Funny enough, we're going to go into You Are Awesome, this book on confidence and all that. Yeah. Do you know what I thought in the end? I thought, you know what? If I'm going to get it wrong, I'm going to get it wrong big.
Yeah.
I'm going to go wrong in style. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to go there and just move my lips and not come out. If I go wrong, it's going wrong big. And I think that was a lesson.
Well, that's something to pick up on next week.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking forward to the big challenge match. Me and Roberto tennis, which was scheduled for tomorrow morning. I got in a big session with a friend of mine called Adil on Tuesday. I played with Simon Lacey. Do you remember Simon who came to the Adil?
Oh, no, Adil.
Iranian.
Is it no Evans? Did you know me at the bank?
Hey, talking of that, do you remember I said... This is weird, okay? This is really... Do you remember I said that I went on a break to a hotel
you went to Bath
with my wife?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So I walk in... Did I mention this on a previous part? I walked into the restaurant in the hotel the first day we arrived. The first person I see is Heston Blumenthal, who I know a little bit because he lives near me in Richmond and we've hooked up a couple of times. He's into table tennis in a big way. I might start
He's
chatting.
not.
He is. He's mad about
He's
that.
humouring you. That's like I'm into ice cream that smokes. Shut up. He's not into it. Oh, I'm into pate that looks like an orange. Am I heck? If he was sat in front of me, I'd say, I tell you what, do you know that pate that you make look like an orange? I think that is the best thing I've ever seen. No, it's not. If I want pate, I want it to look like pate. He doesn't like table tennis.
Okay, in fairness, he's got a table in his basement in his house in Barnes. But anyway, the first thing he said to me is, look, I can't talk for long because I'm having lunch.
Because he's not interested. Because the technique Matthew. Talk about, he's a clever lad. He don't want to talk to him because he's not interested in table tennis. He's never played.
With Noel Edmonds.
No.
Noel Edmonds. They've got some idea for a television programme. So Edmonds and Blumenthal, the first day I'm there at the hotel, are having a summit meeting. Anyway, other than Noel. So
Noel Edmonds.
Practice with a deal on Tuesday. Then Thursday morning, Andrew Castle, former British number one tennis
Partridge.
player.
He's Partridge, Jim. I love him. With same management company, he's brilliant. If there's ever, I tell you what, I'm going to pitch a TV programme here, and it's the simplest format ever. Andrew Castle and a camera. That's it.
Is he a
That is
funny
all
man?
you need. Funny does not begin to
Really, is he,
describe
Matthew?
it. He's brilliant.
Is he?
Honestly,
I
I love him. He's brilliant.
Oh, Fred.
You hit
he's
with
on
Andrew
fire.
Castle.
He's on fire. So Castle, he'd seen me and you tweeting about this
Yeah.
challenge match on Monday morning. So he said, would you like to have an hour and a half of mentoring? So I went down to Wimbledon, the All England Club,
Really?
through Gate 5.
How good's that?
Yeah, up the stairs underneath the Kipling quote. We walked along to the indoor.
What?
The Rudyard Kipling quote. If
for
you
a
can
bit,
meet
well.
triumph and disaster in the same way, meet those imposters just the same, then you will be a man, my son. So we had an amazing hit. And
You hit it with him proper?
We were hitting, we were thinking.
Could you hold your own?
strategically. No, he's a lot better than I
No,
am.
no, but could you?
Yeah, we had a good. I mean, he won comfortably. But
Like
the
when we
rallies
played
were-
table tennis,
Yeah.
and you do the forehand to forehand,
Yeah.
right, you can look after us and make us look good.
Yeah.
But is that the same with proper
Yes,
tennis?
yeah. So he was hitting to me, so I could make sure I got
And you
the
can lift
racket
it
on.
back?
Yeah. What do you mean? Can I hit it?
Like
Of course I can hit
proper,
it
like
back.
proper.
Yeah, we're having a decent hit.
You're
but
rallying with the ex-British number one.
yeah.
You will beat me comfortably,
Hang on.
won't he?
Well, Fred.
Yeah, but-
when we had this conversation through.
Yeah, but
one of
Andrew
the things
Castle
that-
was number one when, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's on
Who was
Smooth-
number
he's
two?
on Smooth FM now. Are you playing
just
Andrew
introduce him
Castle?
back.
I
British,
just say,
Yeah.
Castle was he is. I think he's a fantastic television presenter and commentator for tennis. I think he's the best tennis commentator out there.
I love him. I think
good, isn't he?
I think he's brilliant company.
Yeah,
He's funny.
yeah.
He's good at his job. But I'll say it again. They're missing a trick here. Remember Pineapple Dance Studio
No,
with
Yeah,
Louis
Louis
Spence?
Spence.
That mockumentary. You could do it with Andrew Castle. Honestly, it'd be the best thing.
Do you hit with him?
yeah. So I had it with.
Do you have a game against him?
Yeah, we
Could you take a game off him?
took a game. Yeah,
One game
6-1.
off a British number one.
Yeah, and then we played a champions tiebreak up to 10.
And what was the score?
I won 10-9.
You beat Andrew Castle in the game.
No, but he in the tiebreak he was definitely hitting to me, and he was trying to give me confidence because what an amazing thing to have done though, to have helped me out in that way. It was really
Did you know him or just
no, not very well at all. I think I met him once ever.
great man?
But
Really?
yeah, it was really kind of him, and he was wonderful company. We had a lovely chat. So
We're not
Andrew
playing
Castle-
tomorrow, are we?
No,
My foot-
so yeah, that's the point of the story. We can't
Why was
play.
it?
You've met a tarsal
That
problem.
metatarsal problem after the
football?
sport, yeah, yeah.
What is it?
Oh, can't.
What's
yeah,
the
so-
diagnosis?
Hairline.
It's a toughen
crack.
up a bit.
Hairline crack.
Line crack. That's life threatening for you. You know? That and dead ends. Line crack. Couldn't write it, could you? Is it washing day today, Rob? What is it? You waiting for the shirt to come out the dryer? What have you come as?
That looks really smart
What have
today.
you come as?
Hang on, you got the same t-shirt as you on, but mine's white.
I'm casual. Look at
Oh, so am
where
I.
have you been to dress like that?
Smart.
Like
Anyway,
a posh decorator.
so you'll beat me.
I think it'll be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll delay it by a week, or whenever
Couple of
your
weeks.
hairline fracture has sorted itself out. We'll have a go.
His hairline's getting big. Okay,
But we gotta.
going backwards.
Should we do?
When do you think you'll get it done?
I'm not going bald.
When do you think you'll get them patches
I'm
filled
not
in?
going bald.
Do you think you'll ever do it?
You
though?
are.
No,
If it
I'm
receded
not
before.
going bald.
How far will you let it
Yeah,
go?
yeah. Because it's I mean, it is going back, isn't it? Sort of a few millimeters per
Are you
week.
It's
finding
always
it's taking
been like
longer
that.
to wash your forehead?
I'll tell you what I'm finding. My hair's getting greasier. The older I'm getting. Is that normal?
Oh, it's a medical
really?
fact.
I have to wash my hair more now. I'm getting older.
How often do you wash it?
Twice every other day.
Twice every other day.
Every other day. I was thinking twice in 2 days. Every other day.
What about your teeth? What about your teeth?
Oh, they cost me a fortune. They wash themselves. They wash themselves. It's business.
Not this week.
Topic number 1. So the ball tampering episode with the Australians, one of the biggest stories in cricket, one of the biggest stories in sport. We've been away for a couple of weeks since then. There's been continuing fallout. Since our last podcast, we've seen the press conferences, tearful Australians. Thought it'd be a good opportunity to catch up on what we take of the whole thing. Fred, how did you react to, I mean, the press
Do you know what? I'd be interested to hear what Rob thinks.
Really?
Why?
Because just as someone who has got no idea about it,
Yeah.
to a degree. Don't get me. I'm not.
Yeah,
No, I'm not having a go at it.
Yeah.
From if you're watching like cricket, you've been to the cricket and you know cricket a bit, but if you're watching it from a position, I've never been involved in the game, from a man in the street.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
I thought the big question I was asking myself when I seen those guys cry, I don't know either of them. So it was 3 of them, wasn't it? Bancroft, I didn't see his press conference. Smith and Warner.
And Lehman, the coach.
So Lehman resigned,
Yep.
but I'm led to believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't know anything about it. And I believe that, I think. I don't know. But watching those guys in the press conference, Steve Smith with his father,
Yeah.
and I can imagine if I had my father there, and I think, even though I think he was genuinely upset and genuinely made a mistake and really believes it, the tears for me, I do get it, but
You're having them.
you knew what you were doing, you knew the consequences. It's all right crying after the event. I just think that I haven't seen so many Aussies cry on telly since Neighbours. It's like watching a soap. Seriously. And I think they deserve another chance.
Like when Des and Daphne broke up, wasn't it?
Des and Daphne, I put myself in those situations to see
Did
it.
Daphne die?
Matthew,
Was it? No.
it was
far.
it was
Still a bit raw.
it was cheating. It was cheating, and the consequences are massive. For
Yeah.
They've accepted the
But you
year's
weren't
ban.
having
Am
it
I right?
from any of them. The tears you thought were crocodile tears.
I get it more with Smith, the captain, with his father behind him, and I seen Warner. His wife was in the crowd.
Yep.
Am I wrong? And they've got
you're right.
children. Listen, I don't know either guy, but for me,
Do you think I don't know David Warner?
but maybe I'm doing this, Fred, because people talk about Warner, and I'm seeing all Twitter, and it's gone on. People have gone on about it for ages, and it's really like I was going to unfollow people because everybody kept talking about it, and
Yeah. Too much.
in my head, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you two, please, I got a preconceived idea of David Warner from Twitter, and I got a different one about Steve Smith. So my
I think everyone has.
thinking was that, and I don't know either guy, but people seem to dislike Warner, and people seem to like Steve Smith. And what I was gauging off social media and people in the know was Smith is a good guy. Everybody hates Warner. So I think watching those press conferences, that was in my head, and I was thinking, well, Steve Smith's a nice guy. His father's in the background, therefore I'm going to give him a bit more leniency. Whereas in my head, I'm thinking everybody hates Warner. So I'm thinking, well, Warner, are those
What about Bancroft, who's only had a couple of games?
I didn't see Bancroft.
He was crying as well.
Was he crying as well? So for me, they knew what they were doing, cheating, and to cry afterwards. Are those real tears? I do not know.
Only thing is, like with Warner, I don't really know him. I don't know if I've met him actually. But then you see his list of his misdemeanors and what he's been like. It's harder to have. He punched Joe Root. He's a bit of an animal on the pitch at times and goes at people and says things. So it's hard to have a bit of sympathy.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about Warner is that, you know, you talk about having his wife and his kids. That's almost like using props.
Yeah.
I'm not into that.
It looked stage managed, didn't it?
It's
What about
like-
Steve Smith or his dad then?
Well, that's the only thing with Steve Smith I'm a little bit uncomfortable by, is that you've done it. Can you imagine, like, you've done something wrong, and I'm sat there,
His
you
dad's
know, with
dead.
Pedro, I've got my mum sat next to me. It's a bit weird, isn't it? But do you know what? I didn't enjoy it. I watched Steve Smith's, and I really like Steve Smith. And the one thing about it is, this lad as a cricketer, as a role model up until this, has been amazing.
Yeah,
You know,
brilliant player.
Australia-
Watching the Ashes, amazing.
Unbelievable. He does what he does. His dad's been so supportive of him all the way through.
Yeah.
Probably why his dad was there with him, wanted to be next to him and try and look after him. But when I was out in Australia, I interviewed him. He came onto a show I did, and we all eulogised about him, saying what a great bloke he is, what a nice lad he is. And I refuse to change my opinion of that because someone's been scratching a ball. These are things within cricket that have gone on at different levels for years and years and years. We touched on it in the last podcast about at what point does it become bad? Is it when you're starting putting sweets on a ball? Is it when you got sun cream on your fingers? Is it when you're sticking a shifty little nail off your thumb into it? Or you're trying to soften it? You know, and one of the things that's just really annoyed me, and I've had to bite my lip on social media, and I've had to not name people, and half of me wants to now, and I don't know what's going to come out, is that I've seen people raising their profile on the back of other people's misery. And I've seen it. The worst thing about social media is people can put an instant opinion out. And I've seen people I've played with who've been good to me, and I don't want to bag them. I've seen him change within the space of 2 seconds. All of a sudden, let's call for the red. This is disgusting. This is disgraceful. Some of them are in glass houses. Don't be chucking your stones, lads.
Yeah.
You know, we've done a few things which aren't particularly within the rules. Not as bad as that, but... And it changes. And then I saw Steve Smith on the TV crying his eyes out, so upset. And I'd put a tweet out saying, "You happy now? Is that what you wanted?" And all of a sudden,
But he cheated, though.
then the
Fred.
backtrack.
No, but hang on, Rob.
But the backtrack comes in. You've never cheated on a football field.
And also think about
No.
What, you've never-
Yeah,
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, but I didn't cry afterwards.
Yeah, but that's not the point, Fred. Fred, what you say, I mean, I think the point Fred's making is really interesting because that's what gave me a bit of sympathy for Smith and Warner and Bancroft. Yes, they cheated. What they did was clearly wrong. But given what Fred had intimated in that last podcast, that there are grey areas in cricket, particularly when it comes to ball tampering, and people have been pushing the boundaries, doing that with the sun cream, which isn't totally ethical, or using the sweets and all of that, and then looking at the level of moralistic
they're all coming out,
condemnation.
all these ex-players and all these people. And I'll be honest with you as well, is that, you know, when you sit in a team meeting, and you talk about what you're going to do, everyone knows. I'm struggling to think that not everyone knew. I might be completely wrong, but you talk about how you're going to treat the ball. The ball in cricket is so important. You've got this ball in your hands as a bowler. If this ball moves, if this ball does stuff, then you're in the game. If you're not, you're out of it. So this ball is so important. You sit in team meetings and talk for ages. You've got a designated bloke who's going to look after it more than anyone else. You talk and talk and talk about how you're going to look after this ball. To then say that other people didn't know. If that's the case, I feel sorry for Mitchell Starc. Because Mitchell Starc, he's got the ball in his hands, right? He's running in thinking he's Wazim Akram. This ball's moving everywhere. He's thinking, I'm cracking it here. I'm cracking it. I'm doing something which is unbelievable. Well, don't tell me you didn't know.
So,
if I had a ball in my hand...
You would know.
He's on one here.
If I had a ball in my hand and I look at it, you could give me a ball now, and I can tell you one which has been scratched and one that hasn't.
Wow.
Really?
So I'd look at it, and I'd look at the condition of a ball. If I want to reverse a ball, whether it's the ends of the wickets or I can say, well, happy days, I'm in the game here with this ball. So to say that a bowler has got a ball in his hands or anybody else on the field does not know that this ball has been tampered with is absolute nonsense. So you've got 3 lads who have been banned for a year.
Is that right?
No, I think the crime doesn't warrant that. I don't think it should be banned.
Two have been banned for a year, and I think in one
Right.
two match at Bangkok. So a couple of things that have shone out of what you've said, and I don't think it's come across enough in the analysis so far, is that the condition of the ball and its level of deterioration, the bowler knows exactly where it's at. And if somebody had sandpaper and started using it on a ball, you would know.
That's like saying to you, someone has your ping pong bat,
Yeah.
and then you see
I would
that
know.
your ping pong bat on one side of the rubber is worn.
Yeah.
You know what's been
I would
happening
know.
to that bat. That's like looking at your football boots and thinking I might need to change my boots.
So it's just obvious.
Or if the ball was soft, imagine if the ball was soft
You'd know, yeah.
than a normal ball. You'd know exactly. I'm not having it.
And
if someone's been shining a ball
Yeah.
with sweets, I know.
You know.
Of course you know.
The difference between saliva normal and saliva that has been...
Well, why do you think people do it?
Right. And this dressing room dynamic is fascinating, that you would have a discussion and somebody in the team would be picked out as responsible for using the sweets or the sun
You've
cream
got a
or the lip
designated
balm.
ball man. And then what happens is with the ball, as the ball gets older and you want it to reverse swing, you want to keep that ball as dry as possible. So as a bowler, you want as few hands on that ball as possible. So when you throw it around the field, all of a sudden you say, nah, just get it straight back here. I don't want Monty Panesar's sweaty hands on this ball.
Perspiration. Yeah.
You know, I don't want that. I just give it to us. I'm struggling, and God knows what's going to happen. But to know that people did not know. As a bowler, I'm not having it. I know exactly what that ball is. That's what I use every day of the week.
And do you think that dressing room conversation happens
I might be wrong
in
here.
most
I might be
counties
wrong
and
here.
most countries of the world's cricket
But
team?
you talk about marginal gains. You talk about marginal gains. But this is not marginal gains. This is big gains. This is a bowler who
This
has
is
got...
massive gains, yeah.
Did you know
in the
that the
game.
ball was?
No.
Did you know it was that?
No.
What is the essence?
No.
What is the essence of cricket?
To get people out.
And you've got a ball in your hand to do it. So as a batter, the tool of your trade, the most important thing you've got in your hands is a bat. So a batter will know, I didn't, but the good ones would know exactly how much their bat weighs. They will know what shape they want the handle.
Yeah.
They'll know where they want the weight on the back of it. They'll know where it's balanced. Some of them will go and stand with a bat maker and stand over him and go through it and watch it. So it's made. They'll get bats made in all different places around the world. First time, everybody wants an Indian bat. Everybody wants this bat and that bat. So that's what a batter does. So you're telling me a bowler doesn't think the same about
So
the
when
ball?
I'm watching a TV and seeing a ball spin like miles...
Well, spin's
swing,
different.
swing.
Spin's different.
Okay, yeah, swing. When I'm seeing a ball, like when I'm watching the telly and they talk about cloudy conditions, they talk about overcast, they're talking about all the clouds.
Yeah.
When I'm seeing that ball move like massively...
Right, John Ketley.
And then it... yeah, but then it gets to the... I've seen a ball get to the by the stumps and then the wicket keeper dives and the ball swings miles.
Yeah.
That's not the weather, that's the ball.
It's a bit of everything.
Right.
If you have, for some reason, it's never been proven actually. I tried to prove it on a very bad TV program that overhead weather conditions affect the way in which the ball moves, and apparently they don't, but they do.
Right, they do.
There's no two ways about it. They do, but they don't. If that makes any sense.
So in other words, they can't prove it through science, but you can feel it.
But so what happens is before you go out to bowl and field, the umpire comes into the room and he's got a box of balls. He could have 12 balls, 16.
All brand new.
All brand new balls in the boxes. So given to the senior bowler. I became a senior bowler, me and Steve Armisen. We sat next to each other. He'd bring the box of balls in. I put a ball in my hand and I'll put, no, I don't want that one. Mm-hmm. No, I don't.
They're all brand new.
All brand new, but they're all different. If I put a ball in my hand, I know instantly which ball I'm going to use. So you pick two balls. You pick the one you use first and then the second new ball.
Yeah.
Some feel bigger, some feel small. Well, you want it to feel as small as possible with a big seam. Mm-hmm. So you got it in your hand and you're feeling it. There's all different things. Some like to use a darker ball with a dark dye. Some like a redder ball. So you go through this process. And then once you pick your ball, that's your ball. That's your ball for 90 overs. That is the ball that you're going to try and bowl an international test team out with over 90 overs. So you look after that ball. Everybody's in on it. Everybody's looking after that ball. You're all in on it.
Fascinating.
It is
stuff.
absolute. And just
So
Why are they all
thing.
different? Why are they all different balls?
No, they're the same. They're the same.
Handmade.
Yeah. They're
right.
trying to make a consistent ball. It's like with just to make it
Right,
in
wow.
table tennis. You have the same brand of bat, the wood.
Yeah.
But two bats have a slightly different feel, a slightly different hardness, and when you play with them, they're slightly different, and you know instantaneously.
I could put a new ball in my hand. One will feel like an orange, massive, and I'll get another one next to it, put it in my hand, and it'll feel like a pea. And I think that's the one I can bowl faster with that ball than that one. That ball I look at that ball's actually out of shape. You'll give it a bit of a flick and spin it round, and some of them aren't particularly round, so you think, well, that's not going to swing.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I could be completely wrong here. I really could. But to think that an international cricket team have not discussed what they're doing with a cricket ball and everyone's not in it,
Put it this way.
not having it, and the three lads have got banned.
On the sanction itself, 12 months. It's a long time for an international cricketer. If you had been slapped with a sanction like that, how would you have coped? What will they be thinking now psychologically? They're tarnished.
But I think this is the one thing which has been overlooked a little bit. Where everyone's turning around and they're saying, yeah, calling for bans, calling for punishments, calling for this, that, and the other. Find the sportsmen. They play for Australia. They made a mistake. Ultimately, the humans. Ultimately, the lads in the early 20s, mid 20s. I look back at what I would have been like as a cricketer now at 40 with the head I've got on my shoulders to a 20-odd-year-old boy.
But Smith is 29. I think
Yeah.
Warner's in his early 30s, isn't he?
Yeah, but you'll never grow up him. But then there's so many things. You imagine in Australia, cricket is so big, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows. Them lads have now, the punishment of living with that is so much, so high. Everywhere they walk, he's not going to be the world's best batter now. He's not going to be a guy who scores all these runs. He's going to be the captain who had someone cheating. He had someone scratching his ball. David Warner, you know, the story of him was he came from club cricket to play 2020 cricket. It was like a fairy tale story into the international side, one of the best players in the world. That's gone. He's a lad who was involved in ball scratching and he's a bit of a wrong un. Bancroft, look at him. He's a lad who's played a handful
Why
of
did they do it? The Aussies are that good. Why did
They're
they
not
do
that
it?
good. No,
They battered England 5-0, 5-0.
I didn't know that I mean, I played cricket at a reasonable level for my old Oxford College, and I knew that the change in the ball would make an impact. But Fred, what you're saying
wasn't it?
Yeah, but if you can change the ball and convert a bowler who's 8th in the world up to somebody who's swinging it like he's a 4th or 3rd best in the world, you can sort of I mean, it's the wrong thing. It's unethical, but you can psychologically.
I look at my performance as a bowler. One thing I say, you've got Jimmy Anderson, incredibly skillful, swings it left, right, and centre, can swing anything, you know, and that's his skill. When it doesn't swing, he struggles. I wasn't a swing bowler. I just tried to hit the seam and then see what happened at pace. But when the ball started reverse swinging, I would go from the 20th best bowler in the world
to the best
in my time. Yeah. Not like I'm not putting myself in like Wasim Akram and Waka Yunis's. They were before me. But when the ball starts reversing, I back in myself as the best bowler.
Reverse swing. What's that mean? Go out away
what happens
or
is,
in?
Do you know when you get a new ball?
Yeah.
A new ball will swing conventionally. So all the best bowlers tended to swing it away because it's shiny.
Right.
You look after one side, you shine it.
Which way will the shine be on?
So if you're trying to swing it away from a right-handed batsman, you'd have the shiny side on the inside, on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What happens is the ball gets older, and this is one of the things I was good at, and I could do it pretty quickly. But usually a ball would reverse swing after 30, 40 overs. But there's times I could do it after about 15 with a hard ball, and I'm in the game now, and I'm happy. Part of it, my action, part of it, looking after the ball in a certain way. And when it started doing that, all of a sudden I was a different bowler because I could reverse swing it. And reverse swing means is if you swing the ball naturally, conventionally with a new ball, it swings, but it swings quite early, so you can watch it as a batsman. When you start reverse swinging it, it's at pace and it goes really late. So you'll be watching it as a batter, and then you think, yeah, here we go, and all of a sudden at the last minute it'll duck in. Now ducking it in's one thing, but if you can get it to reverse swing away, then you're in a different stratosphere.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So you reverse swinged it naturally.
Naturally, yes and no. There was a way in which I'd look after the ball within the parameters.
Is there anything that you did and that the team did that you felt uncomfortable about ever in reflection?
No. We use sweets. Whether they were mixed.
Said that, yeah.
We said that, and that's been put in a lot of people's books. We've used sweets and saliva. I can't say that sun cream never got on the ball. That was something I'd never do, so I didn't think it benefited it. The big thing for me was keeping the ball bone dry on the rough side of the ball, keeping that bone dry and putting a little bit of moisture on the other side, and then using the footmarks, bouncing the ball into the footmarks and scuffing it up, which is
fascinating.
It's a grey area. But I'm saying, my game, I don't know if it was because of my action, lent itself towards it. I played with Wasim Akram for 7 years at Lancashire, who taught me about thumb positions.
Amazing.
But, yeah, I was a different cricketer. I'd be confident of getting anyone out in the world.
2005.
You
You
were
were
after that.
Yeah, but you were amazing.
Towards the end of my career, I was bowling my fastest.
I mean, I'm digesting all of this.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the most fascinating
Yeah, I
topics
agree.
we've ever done.
Yeah.
How do you reflect on it now, hearing about the grey areas, how the team acts as a group to try and make sure the ball is in a condition that enables the bowlers to reverse swing and therefore gets you an advantage that could be decisive in a test match when it's reasonably evenly
It's
matched?
fa- It's fascinating.
So just what I'm thinking on, put it into,
Yeah.
I put it into real terms,
Yeah.
games which people can watch. You watch the Edgbaston Test match 2005.
Yep.
Right? So you got the Lord's Test match, the ball didn't reverse swing. Or it did a little bit. Edgbaston, you watched the wickets I got.
Edgbaston, was that the one that ended up really close?
They all
Yeah,
were close.
And
Yeah,
Brett
so-
Lee,
so-
and
First innings, watch the way in which I get Gillespie out. In swinging Yorker. I got him out second in the same way. But in swinging Yorker, watch, if you're on YouTube, how late that ball tails in. That's reverse swing. Second innings, which changed the game completely. And I'm not building myself up here, but it did.
You can.
Right? I came onto ball, my first over. I'd scored a few runs. I was flying. I was standing at slip, and Simon Jones had been bowling. And I was watching it, and I knew this is different. This is different. The ball is reverse swinging, and it's about 12 overs old. I need to get this ball in my hands as fast as possible because this doesn't usually happen, and it's not cheating. This one, there was no monkey business. The pitch had deteriorated, the ground was dry, it was perfect conditions. So I came onto ball. I had this ball in my hand in my first over, and I knew. I looked at it, I thought, this is it. This is like. I couldn't.
Wow.
You knew.
I couldn't pay for this. I could not buy a better ball than this. I could swap my Lamborghini for this. This is
Or your
like,
Ferrari.
yeah, I had both.
Yeah, both.
Maybe a house as well. But I'm thinking, I was at the top of my mark, and I was excited. One, I was excited. There's a big crowd on. Two, I've scored a few runs. Again, we got a good chance of winning. And I ran into ball, and I held it to go away from the left-hander, Justin Langer. And I bowled it pretty much perfectly where I wanted it, apart from a little bit short, and it hit the top of his bat. But I saw the arc of the ball. I'm thinking, I'm in here. And I got him out second ball, a bit lucky off his elbow. And then Ricky Ponting came into bat.
Yeah.
And this is the pivotal wicket. And I'm on one. I'm on fire. And I think the first two balls I had dodgy LB shouts. If you watch that over, just watch the ball, way in which it goes.
Tell people on YouTube. Tell people on YouTube where they can watch it.
It's
So which test?
I think it's the best ever over ever. It's under. But if you watch against Ponting, the first couple of balls came in. One of them, he got his bat stuck behind his pad because he didn't expect it to come in as much, and then a couple more were very similar. And then I thought, you know what, this ball is too good to be true. I'm going to turn it round and move my thumb and see if it'll reverse out. The first one he leaves, it goes away. I bowled a no ball, so I got a seventh ball. The ball which got him out, and conventionally should have gone in, but it went away because it was reverse swinging. It doesn't very often reverse swing away. And it was like probably the best ball I've ever bowled. It was perfect. But that was partly...
And he outside edged it.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was partly to do with me. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to talk myself out of it.
The ball.
But it was the ball. So I'm just trying to I'm not talking myself up here. I'm just trying to tell you the difference in having the ball, which is in the perfect condition to swing it or reverse swing it. So what I'm saying is, not in the lads' defence of the Australians.
Yeah.
It is so important to get that ball that way.
So when
they were probably thinking, we're playing against Africa, we're getting beat all the time, we need to do something.
Yeah.
And
you can see the temptation, right?
So you ate it. I'm not sure you like it. Motor racing, right?
Rubbish.
There was a Grand Prix today, though. It was quite close. But usually the best car, and if you add that to the best driver, will win most Grand Prix, and the best car will probably win the Grand Prix. So are we saying in cricket then, the team who gets the best ball or uses the ball the best will win more than lose?
No, the team with the best bowlers will win.
So the ball's got a lot to do with it, though.
But the ball and keeping the ball, and being, what's the word?
Treating it in the right way.
That's like a layman's question about cricket.
Obviously having the best bowlers in the world is the best. But couple that
looking after
with
the
knowing
ball.
how to look after a cricket ball, that takes you into a different stratosphere. Look at Pakistan in the 90s. Look at Wasim and Wasim.
That, wasn't it?
I played with Wasim Akram.
I was about to ask about that.
For 7 years at Lancashire. Mm-hmm. This fella to me, we called him King. I love this man. As a 16, 17-year-old, took me under his wing. He invited me to his house for a barbecue, which I thought was for the team. When I was 17, it was just me.
Oh.
I was in his garden, and he looked after me, took me everywhere. I went to Pakistan, looked after me. He told me all about how he bowled. He showed me what he did, where he used his thumb. And I had the best seat in the house as a young kid.
Yeah.
As a 19, 20-year-old, I stood at second slip. And from second slip, you can see everything. Because you've not got, you sit on the angle. I could see his wrist. I could see his finger position. I could see where he was going to go. And if I was standing at slip, when he was about two steps out, I knew I wasn't going to get an edge. I'd stand up because I knew he's going to wrap his fingers around this and he's going to try and swing it in. When it was reverse swing and I saw the excitement in his eyes, and I just know this game's over. And
Wow.
so that took him from being like unbelievable to a genius.
Do you both feel sorry for the guys?
I mean, just reflecting on all of that, I think that what they did went far further than anything that Fred has described in his career.
Yep.
Taking sandpaper out onto the pitch in a premeditated way, leaning on a less experienced member of the team to break the rules of the game. I don't feel sympathy in that sense.
What would you?
However, I think the sanction is too long, and it got to me in a massive way that it turned into the biggest story in the world. It was the front pages in the British newspapers, in the Australian news. It wasn't
Australian
like they killed
Prime Minister was on about it.
They didn't kill anyone. I think there was a witch hunt mentality. Let's see how much more we can escalate it. How much can we humiliate them? Let's come and do these press conferences and cry and break down. And people were getting, I think, vicarious pleasure out of it. Yes, they should have been punished. Yes, it was wrong. But it was a scapegoating that for me went beyond. For punishment to be just, it has to be proportionate to the crime. And I think the public reaction and the kind of bloodthirstiness for them to be as humiliated and abased, I found that.
Do you know what annoys me as well is that everyone jumped on it. So you've got people on BBC from TMS to Sky to BT. Every Tom, Dick and Harry has got an opinion on it. A lot of people, not everyone, but most were sticking the boot in. So everyone's got the little time in their eye, and they're getting on telly and they're talking about it, and they're putting videos on social media and making all these big claims. So they've got their time. Not worried about these three lads. All the writers and the journalists, here we go, I've got a few more column inches. So all of a sudden now, Paul Pogba's made a shocking challenge, which I've not seen. Paul Pogba's everywhere now. Was it Pogba?
No, you're talking about the derby. Ashley,
whoever it was. Someone's.
So
that all of a sudden is the big news of the day. So these three lads, all of a sudden, they've been ridiculed, they've been put down. So when everyone's moved on now from cricket and talking about ball tampering, all of a sudden think about these lads that they're living with it. They've made a mistake. I've made mistakes through my career, not like this, and it's horrible. You've got to live with it. You've got to have people saying things to you all the time. Mentally, where are these lads going to be at? These lads need looking after now.
So whatever happens now in their careers, whatever happens, Steve Smith goes back, Warner goes back, Bancroft goes back, they make hundreds, they're player of series, they're going to be remembered for that issue.
You know what? I genuinely think Steve Smith has got a chance of not being. I really do. I think he's such a good lad, and up until this, his image, his reputation was pretty much perfect. And I wasn't going to mention this, but last week when it all happened, I direct messaged him on Twitter, like a message of support, and he got straight back because I was fed up with everyone.
What did you say? You're in my thoughts.
I sent him a nice message, but I don't think it was on the lines like I don't think this is not going to define him as a cricketer. This will not define him. He's got a chance now to come back, and I think he will do in a massive way.
That's a lovely thing to do.
I'd help him.
It's fascinating what he's just said, isn't it? Fascinating.
And in a funny kind of a way, I think I agree because
I didn't message David Warner.
That's what I'm saying, though. You said you don't know the guys, so this is what my perception is. Because I'll tell you in a comparison. Just say it was me and him. We'd done it. Yeah, we'd done it. The outside world would hammer me like Warner, and they would go to him and say, "Brilliant, I think it's a mistake." And I think that is the mindset after gauging what people are saying about Warner and what people are saying about Smith when you don't know somebody. And I think that's a fair thing, that if we both were on that field and me and him were in on it, he would get the love and sympathy, and I would get hammered. For me,
Yeah, but you'd have instigated it.
probably. Yeah, but you see what I mean?
You'd have got them big nails into that ball, wouldn't you? I've got no nails.
So is it not? Is it not again what we're talking about? If you don't know somebody and you've hearsay,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
See what I mean?
You think Warner is being tarnished in a way.
I don't know the guy.
Well, we don't. Neither do I. Not if
don't
Fred
know.
hasn't even met him. But on Steve Smith, his average is 60 in tests. He's like 70 in the last few years, and he's got that unconventional technique. I've seen him interviewed a few times and warmed to him hugely. I love his backstory. His parents were so involved in his development. I think that this idea of redemption, that you can do something wrong, pay the penalty, and it's a big penalty. 12 months, a big penalty.
I respect him because he could also have appealed. He decided not to take it on the chin.
So Eric
Tried to get that.
Eric Cantona got 9 months, didn't he, for
booting someone,
jumping into the crowd and the kung fu kick. Do you remember Crystal Palace, Ellis Park? That was a 9-month ban, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So, from your perspective as a cricketer, and a table tennis player, which was the worst? Premeditated cheating, which it was, or instinctively when you're getting. I don't know what was said from the guy in the crowd, but obviously it was that bad for a player to instinctively jump in the crowd and kick somebody. What's worse?
I'll be honest with you. If I was given the choice, I'd sooner kick someone in the crowd.
So the ball tap is worse.
Well, because for me, kicking someone in the crowd, I genuinely believe if someone would have said something that said really bad,
so on that
then,
a 12-month ban is probably in line because can't have got 9 months yet.
But I'm not saying Cantona's was right to get 9 months.
Fair point. But if you said to you, Matthew, kicking somebody in the crowd, that would be a 6 to 9 month ban. You would say, I would suggest that would be about right. Mm-hmm. So if Fred said,
but I can honestly say, all the way through my career, even though I described how important reverse swing was,
you never took
but at no point did I ever think I'm going to take a bottle top out once or sandpaper or something to try and get it done. I never thought that. I thought if I can do it, I can do it. If I can't, I can't.
So
did anyone ever grow their nails so that they could?
Yeah.
So Matthew, 12-month ban. 12-month ban.
So you get the bogies at the back.
after listening to Fred, maybe the ban is too long. And I have sympathy.
All right, can I ask you a question before my?
Everybody deserves a second chance, 100%. And I hope they all play for Australia again. I really do. I think you made a mistake, you get punished, and then you have a second chance. So, what's worse?
I think they're in two different.
What's worse?
Hang on. I'll get to that. But they're two different moral categories.
This was going to be my answer.
On the one hand, you've got an act of unpremeditated, spontaneous fight. What Fred said is absolutely right. If somebody insults,
I'll stick with my answer. Then
he said they said something really horrible, and he reacted. He didn't injure that person. The particular person who he kicked got a lot of fame.
But we've all had abuse.
Whereas with cricket, think about what Fred's been saying. All of us in our sporting lives have trained hard for years in order to reach our maximum level. And if we win, that has implications for our career, for our earnings, for our commercial endorsements, for our fame. If you have somebody who in a premeditated way breaks the rules of sport, it's not just a cricket game. It's the rest of your life. If somebody takes drugs and you lose in the 100 metres final and you don't get any commercial endorsements, you don't get onto the top of the podium, I think that is a big deal.
Is that what you like? Are you likening it to that? Are you likening it to doping? Is it like doping for a cricket ball?
I think I think it's much more similar to doping, getting a performance advantage in a way that breaks the rules than it is a kung fu kick, which is basically reacting in a way that is going to get you sent off because you're reacting to a player's abuse. I think it's much more similar to doping.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Jamie Carragher. I saw a tweet from Jamie Carragher, which had a picture of him, Darren Lehman, and Steve Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Darren Lehman or was it David Warner? And he put, David Warner, Steve Smith, and Jamie Carragher. And he put that picture up saying, I knew you'd help out or something, lads. He thinks that by this story being in the public eye has got him out of jail. Would you sooner scratch a cricket ball or spit on a girl's head?
I would sooner scratch a cricket ball.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. 100%.
I think that was a massive misjudgment.
So it was terrible.
Yeah.
I think I've said me a bit.
To finish it, what should have the sanction, the punishment should have been?
I'd have gone 6 months.
Yeah.
6-month ban from all cricket.
And can I say, I think that was a fantastic, brilliant topic. One of the most interesting.
I learned.
So thanks. Me too. Topic 2.
Who'd have thought?
Wow.
That came from the top of my head.
Yeah, brilliant.
5 Live Podcasts.
Available now. You, me, and the Big C.
We are 3 friends and bloggers. We've all got one thing in common. We all have cancer.
The train pulls into the station, this little thought train, like this little negative, scary thought, like, yo, what's up? And I'm like, hey there, thought, I see ya.
My consultant came in and was like, how are you? And I was like, I just want to go home and have mashed potato and red wine.
Talking about what it's really like to deal with the dreaded Big C.
We're like, this is rubbish, but we paint on lippy and we get on with our day.
Welcome to You, Me and the Big C.
Search 5 Live in your podcast app.
Topic number 2. So this is my topic, and it's based on, Fred, you'll laugh, a book that I've got coming out later next month. And this is a book for young people, aged between 9 and 14.
Oh, so you're giving a bit back?
Trying to give a bit back.
Right.
The idea is that I've written...
Financially? Oh, he's laughing.
So I've written these books for adults and about psychology, about getting in the right mindset, having the right psychology to succeed.
Marginal gains.
Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. And I worried that there was a group of people who are in their formative years, who are young, and are trying to navigate their way through school, who might be got involved in sport, and they want to know what they need to do to reach their potential.
Brilliant.
This is for them. So I've tried to write it in the language of a young person. It's illustrated.
Could have got Rob to write it.
Oh, Rob.
Come on.
Not happy with that.
Go on. Sorry, Matthew.
So I wanted to talk about this, and I want to get your opinions too, because you're parents to children. I've got 2 kids, 4 and 5, Teddy and Evie. And one of the things that really made me think about this, and it's a non-sporting reason, you guys get invited sometimes to schools. I know, Fred, you went to give a talk at Manchester Grammar not so long ago. I was asked to go to a school in the north of England. They had an extension to the school, quite a nice extension, a big sports hall, and they asked me to go as an ex-athlete to open it, believe it or not. And beforehand, they said, would you take an A-level media studies class? Would you take a lesson? And I thought, I'd love to do that. It'd be really interesting.
Joking aside, can you do that?
What do you mean?
Well, can you do it?
Well, I just had to go and talk a bit about my life in the media, about being a journalist. The teacher was there too.
Right.
So it was like an appearance.
It wasn't like a supply teacher.
No. No.
Who gets to run around.
No.
Remember we used to have she's called Mrs. Cooney, took science. Oh, the kids used to destroy her. Oh, it was terrible. She was frightened of eggs. Everyone brought an egg in.
Matthew, come on.
So I went in, and I'm taking this. So I said, what would be interesting is, let's imagine, I'm a writer for the Times. Every morning at the Times, they have a conference where the heads of the department talk about what they think is the most important story in their sports story, foreign news, home news, features, and then they discuss what's going to go on the front page, the headline, the story, what photo caption. I said, why don't we do that here today? You're media studies people, you want a career in the media, why don't we talk about what should be the front page story? And I ran through some of the stories on the news at the time. I looked around the room, and every single person was frozen in
16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah. Their hands were rigid down by their sides. And I was really surprised at the beginning. I thought, are they not passionate about
confidence,
the media?
put their hands up.
They didn't want to put their hand up in front of a visitor.
I get that.
Who's a bit prestigious in case they said something.
Talking yourself up.
Who was there?
Who else was there?
Was Prince Harry there?
Mrs. Cooney was there. No, and I realised that fear of failure, fear of looking stupid, was preventing them. Because if they'd put their hand up and offered a suggestion, I would have said, no, that's not maybe the right.
School?
No, it was a state school. And I think this is a bigger problem in state schools. People are really worried about being a bit different, about taking risks. And my thesis in life, and I hope as a parent, is that you've got to take risks. You've got to be prepared to fail. I think it's a real curse of perfectionism in young people that they want to look great. They want to look perfect. And so they don't ever want to try anything where they might look less than perfect. But that means that they don't grow.
Yeah, but you're at an advantage. You probably got that out your head pretty quickly as a young lad looking perfect. You probably got that out your head as a young lad.
So I'll just give you a few sort of examples from the book. It starts off with me as a youngster, and my parents have bought me a table tennis table.
Yeah.
And it's in the garage, and Dad wants to have a game, and the first point I lose the point, and I lose the next point, and the point after that. And I have one kid average, and another kid awesome. Kid average says, well, I'm losing, I don't want to carry on here. Go and play with my Nintendo or with my smartphone, and I'm not going to persevere. The other one says, you know what? Okay, I've lost a few points, but this could be fun. I'm learning something, and engages. And that was the trajectory I took. I wasn't very talented at table tennis. I'm not talented at any of the things that I do in life. But, you work hard, you keep going, you make the mistakes, you pick yourself up to failure, you build up that resilience. And, all of the interviews that I've done for the Times, from Ronaldo to Ibrahimovic, you, Fred, it's just the same story. Serena Williams, people who have had the courage to take risks and to try. It doesn't mean you reach the top of the world, but at least you reach your own potential. And what I don't want to see is children not taking those risks, retreating into the safety of their own comfort zone and not growing as human beings.
Thinking about, what you said about the people sticking their hands up in class?
Yep.
I get the reason you're saying, I don't want to stick his hand up, fear of failure.
Yeah.
But then also as well, the reason I asked what type of school it was, because I remember at my school, if you keep sticking your hand up and getting them right, you're going to get your head kicked in.
Because it's unfashionable to be right.
Unfashionable and to be different.
Yep.
So there's a lot of reasons. And one of the things which I learned, not too late in life, but I wish I would have learned sooner, is that fear of failure thing. Is where a lot of things drove me on, I think, as a young cricketer and a young person. And I don't think I don't know if I ever strove for perfection, but whatever I did was never good enough, and I could never accept, which in one way was good in the fact that I was never satisfied, so I kept working, but also it was exhausting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is the reason my head's in the position it's in now, because no matter what I do, whether it's the musical, whether it's this podcast, or whether it's work, or I always think I could have done something a lot better.
Well, actually, in a funny kind of a way, when I think of the three of us, I think you are more naturally gifted than Robbie and I. More naturally gifted at cricket, more natural as a broadcaster.
Cricket, you got a point there.
No, but in sport.
You got a point in cricket there. Well done.
Yeah,
well, good analogy, Matthew. Philly, you're better than me, Matthew, in cricket. Well done, Matthew.
That, I still think I'm the best footballer in it as well.
But as a broadcaster as well, he's quite I think you and I have had similar lives in that I wasn't the most naturally gifted at table tennis. I could see others who played more fluently, they were more elegant, the geometry of their shots looked better than me. But I was prepared to work really, really hard. As a broadcaster, you're constantly
Matthew,
learning.
see,
You have an autocue.
yeah.
You have an autocue at home. You practice on the autocue.
But as a 9 to 14-year-old,
Yep.
I was so gifted because I get so this is where I changed. So I believe that I was one of the most gifted. I was one of the most gifted in my school and in my area, and probably in the whole of North Wales, because at that age I would get the ball, I would take everybody on, I would give me the ball. In sport, I was so confident, so I'd turn up and thinking I'm the best. I'm going to win this game on my own, and I did several times. So I was gifted, and it's just the older I got and the physical part. Well, the physical part of me, because I was small and I was really, off the field. I was so insecure, and I wouldn't put my hand up in school.
Really,
I wouldn't do all that. I wouldn't be in the Christmas play. I wouldn't be, first in the dinner queue. I would be.
I was. Hands up bar.
So in school, everything, I was like that. So on the pitch in sport, I was that confident I could do anything. But in terms of as a 9 to 14-year-old,
what was it that was stopping you put your hand up in class?
You didn't know the answers.
I didn't know. But I did know the answers. But I would feel myself going red.
Yeah.
Even the thought of if the teacher picked up me, I was please don't pick me.
Yeah.
Because if I know it, I might get it wrong. So from that age, 9 to 14, with a ball or a tennis racket or a snooker cue, I believed in myself. But out of sport, I was a nervous wreck.
But think about it. You go on live television, you do live radio, you do personal appearances. The reason I can relate to it so vividly, Robbie, is I got so nervous at school if I had to stand in front of a group of people. I blushed up, I cherried up, and I stammered, and I couldn't get the words out, and my mouth dried.
So what's happened now then?
Well, I just went away, and I may have said it on the previous podcast.
You make a living out to do it.
I went to a local club where you would stand in front of a group of people and you would give a speech, and I just went again and again and again until I learned how to do it, Fred. And I think that's, for me, one of the most important lessons. If you confront your fears enough, you begin to deal with it.
Can I ask you a question in terms of 9 to 14-year-olds or 8 to 50, whatever? Having an older sibling.
Mm-hmm.
I had an older brother, and I believe that I was the tougher one. I was playing with the older boys and girls in on the football pitch where we lived. We lived in a cul-de-sac. I remember there was a young girl called Alison. She would come out and throw me the ball many, many times. And
did you buy her bands as well?
Oh. I used to break in mum and dad's windows. Do you know what I mean? But then we would play on the as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, on the green. There'd be 15, 20 of us, boys and girls, and I didn't care. I'd be tackling everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. But for me, the older boys, that made me tougher. So I'm looking at my two boys now, where Charlie's, I'd probably say this, is more gifted with the ball, but my younger son would run through that brick wall. Right. Is that because of the older sibling?
I think I can relate to that. I benefited a lot from an older sibling, Andrew, who was better at table tennis, was a national champion before me. I was always playing catch up, so it was a bar that he was raising, and I had to fight hard to get there. Give you one quick experiment. Tell me how you relate to this. There was a psychologist took a group of kids and gave them a test. At the end of the test, she praised half of them for their effort. Said, wow, you worked really hard. The other half for their talent. Wow, you're really smart. She then gave these two groups a choice of whether to take a hard or an easy test. The ones praised for effort, they all chose the tough test. They wanted to show how hard-working they were. They wanted something they could learn from. The ones who had been praised for talent, you're really smart, they took the easy test because they didn't want to lose the talent label by taking on a tough test and potentially failing.
Wow.
They were then given a test of identical difficulty to the opening test. The kids who had been praised for effort, they raised their score by 20%. The ones that have been praised for talent deteriorated by 20%. When you praise young people for effort, so say a child's done a drawing and you say, oh, you're a genius, you're the next Picasso. It sounds like positive words, but actually you're setting them up for a fall because they're going to think any time they do a drawing that isn't Picasso-esque, well, obviously I wasn't as talented as they said, and the walls of their world might come crumbling down. If you say, well done, you worked hard, what are they going to think if they want to do a better drawing?
Work harder.
Or if you say, I love the way the colours fit together. If I want to do a better drawing, I have to make the colours fit.
It's the language you use, because that was my next question to you. It's all right, you can identify that the kid won't put his hand up, which is fine, but then what do you do?
Yeah, well, I think what it's to do, two things. One, the way you praise young people. Praise them for the process, for the effort, for the perseverance, rather than just for their talent or for the result. Then you get them into this growth-orientated mindset. The other thing I think is really important is think about a young person watching Ronaldo doing the overhead kick. They're thinking that guy is a natural, which he is, of course, he's a genius. But what don't they see?
The practice.
Yeah. The next day, somebody posted a video of Ronaldo doing bicycle kicks in training over and over and over again, or David Beckham's free kicks.
Oh, don't go about him again.
65 free kicks he scored in his career.
Right. And when he started doing them at the park, I met his dad. He said when he was doing it, Ted would stand in between him and his goal in Leytonstone.
At the cliff.
Yeah.
Free kick after free kick after free kick against the cliff wall. Over the bar, in the net, against the post. Hours of practice.
So you thought you I don't know what I was going to say then. Oh, back to Ronaldo. Yeah. I didn't like Ronaldo. I didn't like him because you see him and he's a bit chocolate and he's like he'd have a big bite of himself. But then, my youngest lad loves him. Yeah. Loves him. I'm thinking, blimey neck, not Ronaldo. Everyone you could have picked, you've gone Ronaldo. So then I've started watching a bit of Ronaldo and I've taken a bit more of an interest in him. And I'm blown away by him.
He's amazing, man.
I won't want him. I want to beat him.
Yeah.
But the way in which he goes about his business and the way in which he works, and I relate this to my youngest. I won't usually talk about him in this way. Right? As a cricketer, he can play. And he loves it. He works hard. He could work harder, but we all could. But then you talk about other areas of his life. He's at a school which is very, very academic. And the standards are so high. The class averages are high. They're doing tests and they're doing stuff which at other schools I think would be off the scale. But then related it to Ronaldo, related it to his cricket. You say, well, you know what, Rob? Look at how you started the cricket and look where you are now. How have you done that? How have you got to this point?
Right.
And he'll tell me all the times he's practiced, all the times he thinks about it, all the time he watches it on TV, and he'll have his bat playing shots with the people on the telly, and all the hours of practice he's done. So, well, your schoolwork's actually no different.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden he's gone away. He's knuckled down. And the interesting thing about this book, and this is one of the reasons I'm actually going to read it and give it to my kids, is, and I hate plugging your stuff, is that you look at it, and for me, that fear of failure thing which we've spoken about held me back so much when I was younger as a cricketer. And I went through stages of being brilliant. I went through stages of being bad. I wanted to please people all the time. I wasn't playing for myself. I wanted to do all sorts. A lot of the time I looked at the outcome rather than the process. Yeah. And then later on in my career, I thought more about the performance. If I get my performance right, the result will be fine. And it's funny when the stuff I do now, and the way in which my attitude towards the work I do, I wish I'd have had this attitude when I was 16 years of age, because that fear of failure for me is now gone. I would sooner do something and fail than not have a crack at it.
This is...
And if I'm going to do something as well, I'm all in. I'm having a proper go. So I can really relate to this book. But one thing I will say, which is different, I don't know if it is different. I question myself a lot. I get myself into these positions, into these predicaments, whether it be work or socially, and I'm there thinking, I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm really not. And the number of times I've been out on stage, or I've been out to do a TV show, Sport Relief, or whatever it may be, and then relate it back to the cricket days, walking out to bat against the best teams in the world. I'll be sat there thinking, nobody would know what I'm thinking. But in my head, I'm going, I'm not sure I've got this in me. I genuinely don't know if I can do this. And I never minded questioning myself. The most important thing was the answer. Yeah. And it was, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute.
I can do it.
Get out there. What is the worst thing that's going to happen? You might get out. Someone will come up. I might fluff a few words on stage. Who gives one?
Do you know on that, with this book, I'm going to give it to my kids too, because one's 11, one's 14. So you know, at the beginning of the podcast when I was saying, what have you done this week? And I said, I went to watch my boy play for Manchester United. So he played the year above. Yeah, so physically not as big, but done it ever so well. So when you talk about fear of failure, the failure in terms of my son will be getting released if he does. You know, he might go on to have a wonderful career in football, or he might get released and he does quite well at school. So as a parent and as somebody who knows about, 9 to 14-year-olds, by me saying the fear of failure. So for him, obviously, he's got to adhere to what the coach wants. Yeah, as a 14, because I now believe you are decision-making process between 14 and 16 is key, isn't it? Yeah. Because you can think for yourself. So by him receiving the ball and playing it sideways and being simple and being easy, lots of people can do that. So for me as a parent to say to him, right, play forward, look forward. If you're trying to hit those passes, but he might say to me, well, they might get cut out. Yeah. Is that the fear of failing, or is that just seeing the pass? Because I'd rather hit the forward ball and look for a pass and see that pass and hit it, instead of being safe, going sideways, backwards. Because you could take hundreds of people off the street and they could go sideways and backwards. Yeah. But the special ones will see it, and the coaches and I will see it. But if he keeps hitting it, okay, it comes to a point where if he keeps trying the same thing, you say, okay, son, you've got to do something else. But playing safe or fear of failing.
I think it depends a lot on the context. Yeah. But in table tennis, we had this phrase where it was, when you're a young player, be positive. Play the kind of shot that you would need to play if you're at the top level at the senior. Because at the junior level, you could play negatively. You could push long, backspin long, and you might get away with it because a young player doesn't have a particularly powerful topspin. You do that in the final of the Olympic Games, you're going to get hammered. Same in football. If you want to be a great senior, adult player at football, you have to take risks. And if you're stretching yourself,
the better you are, the more risks you take.
And and you look at almost all of the great golfers. When they're practicing the stuff that is tough, not the stuff they can already do very easily. And I think that is important. What Fred articulated brilliantly is this idea that success is fundamentally it's a journey. And you apply that journey concept to cricket or to mathematics, you're going to get better through time. You might not win a Nobel Prize.
I'd be disappointed if I didn't, Matthew.
Or
a Tony.
We could speak for hours, but here's another one for you then. So as a kid growing up, and as somebody who's learned to sport or anything you do, I always believed on a football pitch, the first thing you think or see is the right thing. Do you know what I mean? So if I see a pass, if you think that's the right thing to do, the first thing you see usually is the right thing. You know, that's what I've been telling my boy, because sometimes if he controls it and stops...
Stop banging your feet.
Do you know what I mean? And stops, he usually gets caught on the ball. So at that age, am I right here, Fred? When you growing up, the first thing you thought on the pitch is different in cricket.
But the best times when I was playing, whether as a kid or as an adult, when there was only one thing I was thinking. There was only one thought. There wasn't that clutter. There wasn't all these other things coming into my mind. When I was at my best, when I was 9 or 31, is when I just had one thought in my head.
Yeah.
I couldn't carry anymore. I struggled.
You know, on a football pitch, for kids, Matthew, the first thing you usually see, because I'm my under-12 side, I'm saying to my little Freddie, first thing you see is usually the right thing. If you noticed, if they see it and then don't play it, they'll get caught on the ball.
Yeah.
So in table tennis, is it different?
No, it's very, very similar, because you build up what you might call instincts, the patterns around you in football. What's the right pass? In table tennis, you begin to anticipate better by reading the pattern of the opponent's movement. I think what you're talking about here is decision making.
As well,
Are you making the right decision?
And at 9 to 14, some big decisions are going to be made.
Massive, but decisions that you make
big
as the way
at 9 to 14.
Well, 14 more.
Mortgages. What do you mean?
Do you know what I mean? In life, isn't it?
Yeah, no, agreed. Look, guys,
getting rowdy. Look at face on you. Did you see your face?
Can I ask you just one question? Yeah. I've learned a lot from you guys as parents on this podcast. I think you've got an amazing attitude to your kids. You're incredibly assiduous dads. I got a video from Kathy. It's a bit ironic. Remember we did that podcast about spending more time with the family? They went on holiday skiing this week, and I couldn't go because I had so much on.
You told me.
But I got a video from Kathy of Teddy skiing brilliantly. And I've got to tell you, I felt more pride watching that than anything I've ever done in my life. And I wanted to know, what's it like for you guys when you watch because you're watching your kids playing football, you're watching cricket. What kind of emotions? Last thing I'll throw in this question. There was a bit on the Commonwealth Games today where...
Is that still going, that?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Why? What's the point?
Yeah.
Harsh.
What is the point?
Hey, I'm not. Can I defend it? I did some BBC.
No, because you got a bit of work.
But there was a Northern Ireland
is there an egg and spoon race in Commonwealth Games? Is there the sack race and the three-legged race? What is it for? People aren't good enough for Olympics.
Mums and dads race.
What is it? Is Andy Murray's mum in it? What's going on? What's the point?
Did you play in those?
I played.
You must have won a gold.
Yeah, I did. Commonwealth Games,
wow.
Manchester, 2002.
Right. So go on.
The Northern Ireland gymnast won gold on the pommel, and he came off and they videoed him meeting his mum and dad, and he put the gold medal around his mum's neck, I think it was, and his dad started crying, and I welled up watching it. It was just amazing. Just tell me what has been the most moving moment for you two as dads.
There's been a few, to be honest. I must admit, when my two boys were at Lancashire Rose. You know, you imagine for me as a lad who started at 9 years of age, and now I'm watching my boys going to play.
Wow!
But it's a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest, because as proud as I am, and I instill it in them what they're wearing.
Yeah,
I get so nervous. I can't be around other parents whittering or not. I just want to watch it. They probably all think I'm really rude, but I'm just that much into it, and I'm watching it so hard, and I want them to do so well, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm sat in my chair, and I can't do out, and it's horrible, but at the same time, it is just absolutely brilliant.
And when you say, I want them to know what it means, you're talking about the shirt.
Yeah, what it means about before. I don't want to put any added pressure on them, but it means so much.
Yeah.
This is not like... And then I got my daughter as well.
Yeah.
I remember I welled up because she can sing, bless her. She can sing. And she's a good athlete, but she's not that bothered. She's more creative. Mm-hmm. And at her old school, she puts herself in positions which are brilliant, where she'll do solos and things. And she got up and she sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And my nan, who died a few years ago, I was really close to my nan. She used to sing that to me as a kid, and we used to sing it together. And then watching my daughter sing that in front of the whole school, in front of parents and everything, I reckon that was a moment which...
Got you.
It really did, and I look back at my career, and there's things I'm proud of, but I'm not that bothered. But watching your kids do something like that is he's just so different.
Yeah.
So amazing.
So obviously my two was I wasn't there for my son when he signed for Manchester United, and I've got the picture of me when I was 14, the picture mum and dad signing schoolboy forms in Sir Alex Ferguson's office with Sir Alex Ferguson with the scout Hugh Roberts. That picture of me, small, quite skinny, and I've got the same picture of Charlie a few years younger with my wife signing the forms at Manchester United, which is like the picture where you think, wow, that was me all those years ago. So that was such a proud moment. And with little Freddie, because he's small, he's so determined, and to manage him, and come off, and I'm the manager, and the boys are bigger, but his determination, his effort, the way he flies into tackles, and because
he does flying as well.
Flies because he's one of the smallest on the pitch every week, and he's just that look in his face when it reminds me of me. Where my elder boy is more talented with the ball at his feet, but the younger one is got that determination, that desire. And because he's the smallest, and you want to put
got the biggest heart though.
The biggest heart. So as a manager, when I come off the pitch and thinking, that's my boy.
Can I ask you a question on your book, Matthew?
Yeah,
and it's a proper question, and I'll ask a daft one. One of the things I struggle with, and I think a lot of coaches who take teams do, and a lot of parents take teams, I think their intentions and my intentions are just. My intentions want your kids to be better, the kids are coaching, but my language, and I don't mean like rude language, the language which I use to kids isn't always the way. And you mentioned before about the way in which you speak to them and challenge them. What is it?
Good question. Great question.
Because say if I want to give one of my kids a bollocking, right? I want to have a go at one of my kids for not working hard enough, or whether I think he's being a bit lazy. My instinct is to tell him. I don't know any other way, because I've been in the dressing room all my life. That is what I was taught. Yeah. If I was in a dressing room and somebody wasn't pulling the weight as a professional, I would tell them. And I only know that way. And I think sometimes I get it wrong with my kids because I treat them as the professionals. Yeah. But they go to bed with teddies. The kids.
They do. Great question.
I don't. What is the right way?
I think it's obviously an incredibly difficult thing to do well, and I'm learning the ropes as I go as a dad. The thing that's always struck me about sport is that you have kids who really are passionate about the sport. They want to play the sport. They want to develop in that sport. Often those kids are the ones who are saying, take me to training, Dad. Take me to training, Mum. You have other kids who actually don't want to play that sport. They're not that interested. They may be more creative, like your daughter. They don't want to play cricket. But the parent is passionate about them becoming an international cricketer, and they're pushing them and pushing them. And I think that person eventually burns out and gets quite resentful. The trick, I think, is when you have somebody who is passionate, but then goes through a little wavy period where they're just, they're not prepared to. They know that they want to. You know that they want to deep down because you know your children well. I think a nudge then, pushing them then is fine. And I think obviously getting the language right is probably quite difficult. But I don't think there's anything wrong with pushing a child who you know deep down they love that sport and they're not quite doing themselves justice.
Another thing which is really bothering me is an inspiring, uplifting read I wish I'd had it as a kid. Dermot O'Leary. I'll be honest with you, Matthew, right? Every time you come in here, you're saying, when I interviewed Zlatan, when I interviewed Ronaldo, when I introduced Beckham, Cipriani, not as much. You got Robbie Savage here, you got me here, and you've gone for the forward on a book about sport from a bloke who hosts the X Factor, and his biggest trick is he can throw a microphone up in the air and it turns once and he catches it. That is the man you've gone for. And you put Professor Carol Dweck on the back of the book. Surely she's worth listening to more than Dermot.
Well, I was thinking O'Leary, but Andrew Castle was the other option.
Would have been better. At least he played tennis. What did Dermot O'Leary do?
Brilliant.
Can I just finish with that quote? And I think it's people who listen to this podcast. It is a great quote off Professor Carol Dweck. An awesome book about becoming awesome. How inspiring it is to know that there's a path to awesomeness and that anyone, absolutely anyone, can go down that path.
That autocue's going well, isn't it? I've been taking it out of your house now.
Master, yeah. Let's finish on that. What's a podcast?
Can I just finish on a serious note?
That's a cracker.
Just finish on a serious note. Fella who was a big hero's mine growing up as a massive darts fan.
Yeah.
A bloke I knew.
Legend.
and genuinely loved Eric Bristow. It was.
Yeah.
What a player. You know, the crafty Cockney. He, I think, is a person more than anyone else who made darts the sport that it is today. I mean, it's got so much bigger as a consequence of what he did. And interestingly, he got that dartitis, didn't he, for a while? And then he sort of moved into television, a legend.
And obviously, you know, a friend of mine, Ray Wilkins, you know, had the pleasure to work with him on numerous occasions. The warmth, you know, his knowledge, his passion. And, you know, when people pass away, people say, what a fantastic bloke he was. This guy was. Everybody I've heard, everybody who's mentioned him, what a fantastic bloke. And I heard a radio station, there was a phone call of a homeless person who said about Ray that he sat with him for 20 minutes, gave him £20, and the homeless person went to a shelter, got hot food. He met somebody in that shelter, and now has changed his life around. So from Ray Wilkins, given that man the time of day, what a man, what a person, you know, and such. I
was in his company a few times, Ray.
Yeah.
Lovely man.
Lovely fella, and that's such sad news. So obviously our thoughts and prayers goes to both families.
Thanks, Robbie. Thanks, Fred. Great podcast. And thank you for listening. If you missed any of the shows we've done to date, they're all available to download at the 5 Live website and all the usual podcast places. Please use the hashtag FredSavSide to get in touch through the week. If you could leave a review on iTunes and give us a rating, that would be great. We'll be back, although that is the end of Series 2, so I hope we'll be back.
Will we be back?
But until then, from all of us,
Goodbye. Fred, goodbye.
Goodbye, yeah. Robbie, just a bit of breaking news. You won't be back. Me and Matthew will be. We've got Dean Saunders instead.
Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy.
Thank you for downloading the Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy podcast. If you like what you hear, then why not have a look at what else 5 Live podcasts have to offer at bbc.co.uk/5 Live.